PSA back in 1985, and the first airplane I was assigned to was the Bondurante, or the Bandit EM-110, and it was a good airplane. What, 15, 16 seats, something like that, non-pressurized, no autopilot, but it was a good airplane to start. I'd just come out of reciprocating engines only, so this is my first turbine experience. It was great. You after a couple 6 months flying that airplane, you were a really good hand flying. You could handle that well. Of course, it was two crew, first officer and a captain. I actually started out with the first officer because I needed some turboprop time. Like I said, I'd come off the DC-3 Beech 18 environment down in the Caribbean, so this was I guess it was an insurance issue, so I needed some time in that. But anyway, after 6 months, upgraded to captain. I think it was Joe Mims was the check ride down in Brunswick in the middle of the night. But it's a pretty simple airplane, ground school and all that. Anyway, the procedure was, I was based in Memphis to start. So the procedure in Memphis back then, this is probably 86, was that it was a typical terminal, just like it is now. It had been modified very much, but there was upstairs was the gate area. They'd go down the stairway to come down to ramp level. There'd be a gate agent at the top that would send them down. Somebody on the bottom would say, okay, that's the airplane going to Monroe. That's the airplane going to Jackson. That's the airplane going to Columbus, Mississippi. That's the airplane going to Meridian, et cetera, right? And sometimes 2 or 3 flights would board at the same time. So you can start to imagine the possible confusion here. But there was a way to intercept that by the fact the first officer would be at the bottom of the stairs. You sort of had to help the people up these stairs. Just a fold-out stairway, because you're not familiar with the Bandit. Folded down, and has rails. You walk up the steps. So the first officer would help people up the stairs. It would also intercept them if they had a bag that's too big to fit under the seat. But he would, or she, would say, welcome to flight 2216 going to Monroe. In fact, that day I was going to Monroe. So we boarded up. I believe we had a full flight. I'm not really sure. Of course, while we're doing all that, the carry-on bags, or the regular bags, have already been loaded in the back. The carry-on bags were brought back there and stuffed in there if they didn't fit. Final passenger comes there, get a thumbs up from the gate agent down there at the ramp. The first officer, I can't remember his name, sorry, that's a long time ago, 1986. But anyway, runs up, pops up the stair, closes the door, sits down, and we go through the checklist, fire up the engines, get the ground crew, gives, clear on 1, clear on 2, start up the engines. While we're doing that, this first officer read a little safety briefing explaining, seat belts and emergency exits and all those other things. Start taxiing out. I get on the radio as we're taxiing out and use my captain's voice to say, welcome aboard. This is flight so-and-so to Monroe, Mississippi. Was it Mississippi or Louisiana? Monroe? Anyway, that's a long time ago. And the weather's going to be, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and right in the middle of my briefing, a passenger comes up and says, hey, I've just checked. Everybody back here, we're all going to Meridian, Mississippi. So I said, we called ground, said, we need to pull over, we need to check something out. Pulled over, called the company. Company says, yeah, you're supposed to go to Monroe. I said, well, I got the wrong passengers. So a little bit of shuffling went around there. Okay, so-and-so airplane. They stopped the other airplane. I suggested that we just go ahead and go to wherever these people want to go. But then it was pointed out that the bags would be going to the wrong place. They'd end up where they are. And so we turned around, both of us turned around, both airplanes turned around, went back to the terminal, shut down the engines, passengers got off and switched over. Of course, somewhat embarrassing for the ramp, and we're the people on the ground, so we had to explain that. Or at least we took some hit for that too. Derision because, well, why are you taking us to the wrong city? That kind of thing. I didn't mention there was no flight attendant back then. So that was just an embarrassing, sort of funny situation. It was just funny to me. It was just, the chaos involved with that kind of boarding situation. Nowadays we have ramps, we have all and a whole lot more personnel on the ground that guide people to where they need to go. But that was sort of fun. It wasn't too much longer after that that I ended up in Atlanta, and then we started getting Brazilias, 1 or 2 a month. And got sort of frenetic. Did an upgrade pretty quickly after that. But anyway, Memphis was a trip. I tell you what. Yep, it was fun. Thanks.